This is Manchester Freightliner Terminal, handling up to 20 trains a day, taking containers to and from the UK's deep sea ports.
So how many of these are you shifting through here?
So we'll move 100,000 containers through Manchester every year. Wow. And we'll do about 500,000 countrywide.
Moving things by rail takes 6 million lorries off our roads every year and emits considerably less carbon.
And what sort of things are on board?
Anything and everything you can imagine. You know, everything from wine to exports from here, like cereal products. Expensive cars.
You say wine, is that a whole load of bottles?
Not at all, no. So some of these will be filled with what we call a bladder that will contain, I think, 22,000 litres of wine. The wine is extracted from the bladder and put into the glass bottles that you then see in the supermarket.
I can imagine there's a bit of a Christmas rush for moving wine around.
But getting more freight onto rails has its challenges.
Sometimes road is cheaper. You know, the cost of running a train increases every year by retail price index. The track access charges we pay, whereas of course road doesn't see that huge increase in price. Price of electricity, for example, has really spiked recently, and that makes it much more expensive to run these environmentally friendly trains.
I think this is our train. Where are we going?
So this train is going to Felixstowe. So it's fully loaded. There's about 56 containers on it. It's going to Felixstowe via Crewe.
And where are we going to go? Are we riding the freight car?
Yeah, so we're going to go in the cab with the driver. Come on up.
Quite a hike. Well, here we are.
Okay, and welcome to the cab. Let me introduce you to Duncan.
Hi Duncan, nice to see you. Oh, I'm looking forward to this.
We're riding in one of Freightliner's electric trains, powered by overhead wires, but the bulk of the fleet still runs on diesel.
We're on an electric line now, driving under electric power. Why can't you do this everywhere?
Yeah, well, wherever we can, we do. But unfortunately, a lot of the lines we travel over are not electrified at all.
Earlier this year, the company temporarily stopped running electric even on sections that do have overhead wires.
Why did you dump electricity a while back and go back to diesel?
Yeah, so for a short period of time, we had to put the diesel trains back on rather than electric because of the price of electricity. It was costing over £1,000 extra per train that was running just to pay for that extra electricity, and that was far more than the business would be viable under that condition.
And now, is it still more expensive to run electric?
It is more expensive to run electric, but there are other benefits that we get from electric traction. It's more reliable to start with. So, you know, we've taken a calculated risk that we will pay that extra amount. What I'd really like to see is what happens with some of my colleagues in Germany, where they're capping the price of electric traction for trains, so that it's never more than the price of diesel.
And the drivers prefer it too.
The electric trains are brilliant. They're nice, comfortable, quiet. They got the speed, so you know it's not like the diesels will take some time.
So they're actually faster accelerating than diesels are?
Yes.
How much train have you got behind you here?
So we've got 617 metres, weight-wise 1,500 tonne.
And how would that distance, I mean that's well over half a kilometre, not far off half a mile, how would that compare to say a passenger train?
It's probably 3 times the length of the longest passenger train.
Only 9% of freight currently moves this way in Britain, and our ageing infrastructure hinders growth, with freight and passenger trains jostling for space.
What about HS2? What is the impact of the cancellation north of Birmingham Stafford had?
Yeah, HS2 is really fundamental to allow us to run more freight trains because the passenger network is really congested. So by the trains moving away from the traditional network onto HS2, more parcel freight, faster parcel freight. So we spend less time sitting in loops waiting for passenger trains to go by. We can use our equipment more productively. In some respects, HS2 was really badly named. It was about everything other than the speed. It was about the capacity it generated for passenger trains, but absolutely for freight trains. And we really need to persuade government to get the HS2 line going at least as far as Crewe.
It'll be the middle of the night by the time our train reaches Felixstowe Port, so we're jumping off early.
We're just coming into Crewe Junction now, and this really does feel like my old train set. Well, there you go. That's one ticked off the bucket list.
This is Freightliner's Crewe maintenance facility, home to a team of engineers who keep these wheels turning. Louise is showing me around.
What happens at Crewe, generally?
So Crewe is one of our main hubs. We've got a big shunting yard outside. We've got a big aggregates depot next door, which is processing all of the materials that are going out for engineering on the network. And then we have our maintenance facility here, where we're maintaining our locos.
And A lot of which are diesel, because like it or not, these are still the workhorse.
Absolutely, still very much the workhorse. There's not a single one of our train pods that we can run on electric end to end in the current state of affairs.
We're not going to electrify the whole of the network, it's just not going to happen. So what can you do in the meantime?
So it's about having a blend of solutions, using electric where we can, a little bit of infill electrification, just another 60 miles in targeted places would allow us to get a third of our services end to end on electric. But where that isn't possible, it's looking at how we use alternative fuels and alternative technologies to bridge those gaps. So battery will have a place at some point in the future, power density is not there yet, but it's getting there. And alternative fuels are going to be really, really important.
While a completely decarbonised railway is still some way down the tracks, it's already much greener than road. And with electric lorries way behind electric cars and our roads more congested than ever, there's perhaps never been a better time to get stuff off the road and onto rails. Tom Heap, Sky News, Crewe.